A tornado has killed at least 23 people in the US state of Mississippi, which is located here in the south of the country. The authorities said the twister left a trail of damage for more than 150 kilometres. One of the worst affected towns is Rolling Fork, where trees and power lines have been torn down. At one point, debris was pulled more than 6,000 metres into the sky. And let's just take a look at some of the latest pictures we've received of the destruction in Rolling Fork. And you can see there cars on top of buildings that have been completely flattened. That town of Rolling Fork is complete and utter devastation there. Well, earlier I spoke to our correspondent Francis Reid.
23 people at least have lost their lives, so a large number. A trail of destruction, as you said, of 150 kilometres. And some were saying, just to think about this, the debris was flown 6,000 metres into the air, but possibly up to 9,000 metres. That's almost 30,000 feet. So tremendously frightening, whatever the official measurements eventually turn out to be. I mean, at the moment, as you'll see from the pictures, a total scene of destruction. Trees uprooted, houses destroyed, towns destroyed, and now tens of thousands of people without power. We've heard about hail the size of golf balls as well. The worries are when you have natural disasters like this, you get people trapped in situ in those houses, under rubble, under structures that have fallen down.
Just while you're talking as well, we can see trees that have fallen on houses. So people probably still in houses.
Exactly. And, you know, it's very difficult in these kind of natural disasters to get help to where it needs to be in the time frame that it needs to be. And I think that's the key thing. So all efforts now will be on trying to save as many lives as possible.
And of course, these pictures we're seeing at the moment, it's all at night time. So people would have been woken up by this or be waking up to this devastation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just absolutely terrifying. You know, by morning, local residents said some towns, like there was a place called Rolling Fork, were gone. You know, completely gone. And they've warned people to stay far away from damaged power lines, not enter those damaged buildings. If they're on the outside of them, don't then go into them or walk through the floodwaters. But some eyewitnesses, well, they described it as being eerily quiet just before the tornado struck. That's not unusual. That's something we hear quite a lot. But they said despite the sky being dark, because this came in through the night, they could actually see it coming. Of course, many people have been taken to hospital. Others who are trapped have been told to wait for first responders if they can. But for many, by the time they heard the warning, it was only really time to get shelter within their house. And yes, in the US, some of the houses do have basements, but they're not always effective, and not all houses have them.
Earlier. Well, now I'm joined by the meteorologist and storm chaser, Dr. Reid Timmer, who was in Mississippi last night and streamed his experience live on his YouTube channel. Well, thank you for joining us. Just talk me through what happened last night and how those events unfolded.
Well, yeah, it was all the ingredients were in place for a large-scale tornado outbreak, fast-moving supercell storms moving at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. And we were actually chasing storms for about 4 to 5 hours during the day. None were going tornadic, and then right at sunset, it was like a switch was flipped from off to on. The low-level winds started to accelerate above 60 knots, and as soon as the storm hit the Mississippi River, as those southerly winds were streamed up the delta there, it went tornadic, and there was a long-track tornado that was possibly on the ground continuously for over 50 to 100 miles. We'll have to see if it was consecutive tornadoes, multiple tornadoes, or one long-track one. But we were heading from south to north up from Vicksburg toward Rolling Fork. And the storm was absolutely electrified. The lightning was pulse lightning, so frequent, strobe lightning, so you could see the whole structure of the storm. And then suddenly you saw that wedge tornado, probably over a quarter to a half mile wide, as it was crossing the Mississippi River and heading toward the town of Rolling Fork.
And you obviously, you chase storms, you chase tornadoes, but we're just seeing pictures now of the utter devastation left in some of those towns that you must be near to. Was it ever touch and go? Was it ever scary at any point?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, for about 25 years, so we definitely knew where the tornado was moving. We knew the structure of the tornado. I was scared for the people in the path of this one, and we arrived in the town of Rolling Fork just after the tornado came through and saw the dark side that these storms leave behind, and just total devastation. We saw people that were abandoning their homes, the rubble, walking around confused, asking what had happened. You saw serious injuries, even death in the town. And we just began transporting people to the hospital just on the north side of Vicksburg, people with the most serious injuries. And storm chasers dropped everything and assisted in the search and rescue effort because the nearest hospital was about 40 miles away from Rolling Fork. And we just had to get people to help down there to that hospital. And it was just utter devastation. Definitely similar to what we saw in Kentucky a couple of years ago, the December 10 and 11 outbreak, where Mayfield and other communities in Kentucky sustained serious devastation.
And I understand you helped get two people to hospital who had sustained quite serious injuries. How is that search and rescue operation going now? I can see it's quite light, bright, even sunny where you are now. So has it calmed down? Is it helping that?
Yeah, the weather is calm, certainly now today. It is a little bit windy, just a classic post-frontal environment. A lot of times after these supercells move through, on the backside of the outbreaks, you have crystal clear skies like this. It's very dry. Sometimes it's cold as well afterwards. So definitely the conditions are good for the recovery effort, but it's just beginning right now. You see people that are just sitting in the rubble, not really sure what to do, checking on loved ones. Cell phone coverage is down there. I'm actually just south of the damage path near the Vicksburg area and about to head back and survey that damage path to see if it was one continuous tornado. A supercell that's moving at 60 miles an hour like that doesn't really have time to cycle through tornadoes. So you get these really long track, classic Dixie Alley tornado outbreaks, fast moving tornadoes. They continue through the night. And there's a lot of mobile homes as well out here in the Mid-South. And so it's just the worst case scenario. And yesterday, there were people in their vehicles in town. There were no tornado sirens that were going off. And you actually even saw vehicles that were going airborne orbiting around the tornado. And just the worst, most devastating tornado that happened last night. And it continued and impacted other communities like Silver City and Amory, areas that were similarly impacted during the super outbreak of 2011.
OK, well, thank you very much, Dr. Reid Timmer, meteorologist and storm chaser, bringing us the latest following that tornado in Mississippi overnight.